and welcome back to another episode of Across the Board. It's our third one, and we got a lot to talk about today, specifically a lot of college football. But first, we'll announce some other things. First of all, I want to give a shout out to Lando Norris, the world champion in F1. Won it on Sunday at Abu Dhabi. Amazing race. Max Verstappen actually won the race, but Lando beat him out by 2 points, a margin of 423 to 421 in the world champion. And yeah, won it. Great for him, first time champion. And I believe it's 35th different champion. Might be wrong on that, maybe 32nd. But great achievement for him. Would have loved to see Max Verstappen make a comeback, but it didn't happen. But yeah, just wanted to mention that, and we'll move on to college basketball now.
Just kind of going over last week's games, we talked about a couple of exciting games and some upsets. Syracuse
Sure.
knocked off Tennessee on
Great
Tuesday
game.
night, 62-60.
Yeah. Great game there. One of the good games of that night. There was a lot that night that were good, but kind of
Right.
surprising. Syracuse played great. Unlike what they did in Vegas, they shot a little bit better. Three-pointers still on the low side. And free throws weren't amazing. They only shot 60%, but
And,
they played great.
and
Overall, Anthony didn't really do too much, to be honest, and they still won by 2. Beat a good Tennessee team. Yeah, Tennessee just had some woes that night. They shot okay. They only shot 13 threes and only made 4 of them. So not great, and also only got to the line 15 times. Carey did have 22 points. So yeah, great win for Syracuse to get right back on track.
yeah, and I mean, you talk about Syracuse, you mentioned the free throw shooting. I mean, they're close to bottom 10 in the country. I mean, in free throw
Oh
shooting.
yeah,
They're one of
they
the
are.
worst free throw shooting teams in the country.
Yeah, they
I mean,
are currently 393rd.
and we you talk about Vegas and their struggles there. I mean, I believe they lost by what, 2 or 3 to Houston,
Yeah, and
and they
yeah,
were 12 of 29 from the free throw line.
yep,
I mean, I think it's a good ball squad. I mean, Clint, I think Clint, the free throw shooting. I mean, they're going to be a good team.
yeah,
So
yeah.
I
They were
think they're going to be
13 for
exciting to watch.
22 against Tennessee. So at 60%, not great. They make a couple more of those. They win that game a little bit easier. Not too much
That's
of a hard
they're
time there.
close.
So
Um, and then we go to UNC beat Kentucky 67-64.
they did.
Another
They did.
dogfight game. Um, Definitely one I was excited to see
I
on
think
my end at least.
yeah, I think most people were. Um I don't know if everybody really saw the outcome to be this way. North Carolina's great. People didn't really think they would win the game though. Kentucky was more of I think they were the favorite going in the game. Couldn't tell you on that one. Um, but yeah, they played great. Um, they shot all right, but Kentucky shot absolutely horrendously. That's really what got them down
And
and what lost
they
them the
were
game.
7% from the free throw line.
They were indeed 1 for 13. One. They went on a. I was talking to you earlier. They went on a 4 minute period during that game that they didn't make a shot, not a single shot. Um, their free
And
throws are fine. They make a good amount of those free throws, but they cannot shoot from the field, and they have nobody to take
and
over a game. Oweh had 16 points, but
I mean
couldn't finish the game.
they got beat on the boards. I mean, North Carolina had 20. They out rebounded them on the
Hmm.
offensive side, 20-8.
They did.
I mean, we're gonna definitely talk about Kentucky a little bit later,
We
but
will.
I mean, definitely definitely concerned. 7% from the free throw line is not ideal.
No, not the Kentucky
Um,
team we're used to seeing.
Very much anticipated game. No, and then UConn Kansas, really exciting to watch. That was a very fun game.
That was UConn looked good, pulled out a win. Not surprising. UConn's only got better through the year, and they will only do that. They have a big game tomorrow night. We'll talk about that later. But yeah, they played good. Uh, I mean, Mullins looked great, had 17. Ball looked great, had 17. Um, honestly, everybody on that squad looks good, and they were without one of their best players, so that's a good win for them. And they beat a Kansas team who was also out, well, basically without their best player, um, but still, I mean, Kansas kept it close. It's good for them, even with injuries. They can still battle with some guys. So that's good for them, but a tough game for them to lose.
Yeah. And we're going to talk about our next game. I know you watched, and
Yeah.
fun one for sure. But Duke and Florida.
Oh, for sure. Great game to watch as a Duke fan, not a Florida fan. Not for me. I mean, not too great of a game to watch. Yeah. It came out. Florida came out slow, really slow. Honestly, they were down 12 at half, and it looked like they had no life in them. Couldn't shoot. I think we made one bucket within like a 4 or 5 minute period. At one point, we were 1 for 13 at one point during that stretch and looked terrible. Our defense was great though. Florida played great defense. So did Duke all game. Quite a defensive game to only score 67 to 66. Great defense there. But Todd Golden made changes at half. Came out in the second half and went on a 9-2 run, I think, at the beginning of the half, and got the lead back down to 3. And then throughout the rest of that game, well, they just they battled. Cameron Boozer, amazing player, obviously. He played great in the first half and didn't play as good in the second half, but still 29 points for the guy. It's insane. He's a beast. It's hard to guard him. I think Florida learned that. But in the second half, they did a better job of that. In the first half, he shot a good amount of threes, and made I think all of them in the first half that he took, or most of them. Second half, they didn't allow him to take as much. They actually switched to a zone defense in the second half, and that helped them a lot. Really messed up Duke's just rhythm in the second half. I don't know. Duke came out in the beginning of the game was just basically getting whatever they wanted, and then defensive wise was stopping them. So yeah, great game for both teams. They both looked great at the end there. I mean, you can't leave a guy like Evans open. You can't. Urban made a terrible mistake in trying to double Boozer when he had taken a 3 in basically all the second half, and left Evans wide open, one of the greatest shooters in the nation. And yeah, I mean, he had 3, and then Boogie turned it over. But great game for Boozer, great game for Thomas Howe as well. Scored 24 that game. So, but overall, 2 great teams. Florida, I think, lived up to the standard finally that they've been wanting to. They just really haven't played the ball they wanted to. Still didn't shoot great. Offense didn't run effectively as much as they wanted it to, but defense was great, and they look like they can go toe to toe with a national championship contending team, and that's what they want. That's what Florida wants to be. So, good game, great game to watch.
Yeah. I want to shift to Wednesday night, and I want to talk about Louisville, Arkansas. Arkansas knocked off Louisville 89 to 80. Arkansas out-rebounded them 46-36. Out-rebounded them offensively 18 to 12.
Yeah. Great game for Arkansas. Bryzell looked amazing for Arkansas. That team is looking better by the day. I mean, yeah, all their guards played great. They got a lot of shots, made a lot of them, and really just kind of, I don't know, just really kind of took a hold of the game there in the first half and never let it go. I mean, at half they were up, what, 18?
I want to say yes.
That's just something, that's something I don't think most people expected. Arkansas looked amazing. Obviously, Calipari's going to have them ready for anything. Just the team that they are. So not really surprising, but I think Arkansas finally got it together and played a great team like Louisville and absolutely mopped them in the first half.
All right, I want to shift to Friday in a game that it was brutal. I mean, Gonzaga throat stomped Kentucky 94-59. Man, I don't even know how you. I don't know how you even explain that.
We talked about how bad they were on Tuesday,
It just looked
They
worse.
they were 10 times worse on Friday. I mean, 10 times worse.
I mean,
We all know that Gonzaga is a great team. They're one of the best in the nation, and so we knew they were going to come out and play, especially going to Kentucky. But at the same time, nobody expected this. I said earlier that Kentucky went on a 4-minute stretch where they didn't make a basket on Tuesday. Well, they went on a 9-minute stretch in the game against Gonzaga on Friday and didn't make a bucket. Finally, Denzel Aberdeen made a three to break that stretch, and it was bad, man. Gonzaga
I
shot
mean,
great. Ike looks like one of the best players in the nation. Obviously he is, but looked even better. Huff as well, looked great as well. Kentucky though, again, like I said, nobody take over the game. Nobody turn it around. Nobody that could get them out of a bad rhythm, out of bad shots. Nothing. I mean, shot 20% from three. They shot 34 threes, which was double the amount they took on Tuesday, but triple the amount almost they took on Tuesday and made 7 of them. Again, the free throws are great, but man, you take 60 shots from the field, make 16 of them. You shoot 27%. That's horrendous. That's something from Kentucky that we haven't seen.
yeah, and we give credit to Gonzaga. 57% from the field,
Sure.
50% from the 3-point line. But we're going to talk about Kentucky later, but it's
Yeah.
just brutal. I mean,
Yeah.
it's just brutal. Mark
I,
Pope led team. I mean, this team, it's a disaster. Just
yeah.
no heart. Just
hmm
team just looks dead in the water.
Oh, for sure. And
Um,
Gonzaga, on the other hand, looks amazing. That
yeah,
kind of tells you
Gonzaga's been.
how good Michigan is to beat them by as much as they did in Las Vegas. Gonzaga
Mhm.
is I mean, they're probably right on that cusp of a national. I mean, they are national title contenders, but probably right on that cusp of being one of the top dogs for that. So yeah, they're looking good.
Yeah. We're now going to talk about the Saturday games. We had a lot of good ones Saturday. Uh,
Did
Arizona stomped Auburn, but Arizona
yeah,
continuing what they've been doing all season.
Arizona just looks like, I mean, another team, obviously national title contender. We talked about a lot of those, and uh, they just they keep showing how they should be the number one team in the nation, and actually they just became the number one team in the nation today in AP rankings. So deservingly, they beat a good Auburn team. That I mean, they beat them by 30, almost 30 points. Uh, that's
Yeah.
that's good. I mean, we all know that Arizona's good, but Koa Pete looks amazing. I mean, possibly the best freshman in the nation. Don't want to say that. Yeah, but there's a ton of good freshmen in the nation this year, but amazingly there. Um, and yeah, Auburn's a good team too. I mean, Auburn's a good team. Pettiford had 30, and they still couldn't do anything against
Yeah, and we talk about the shooting. I mean, Arizona was shot 61% from the field,
them. Yeah.
40% from three. Auburn struggled on the other hand, 33% from the field and 24 from three. But
hmm
Arizona just continuing what they've been doing.
Yeah.
You talk about
I mean, if they shoot like this and they play like this, they could definitely win the national championship.
most definitely. And Illinois knocking off Tennessee 75-62
Yeah.
and
Yeah. Uh,
uh, giving Tennessee another loss this week.
yeah, bad week for Tennessee. Um, Again, they only shot 37% from the field. Tennessee just didn't really have their stuff again. But give credit to an Illinois team who has played good. Has lost some games. They lost to Bama earlier in the season, and just didn't look like anything. Um, but yeah, I mean, congrats to Illinois on another great win, and hopefully that puts
Mhm.
them in the right direction. They're a good team. They can contend in the Big Ten. So yeah, great win for them.
Yeah, I mean, see what they were doing. Both teams shot pretty bad from the free throw line. Tennessee was 8 for 18, and uh,
hmm
let me look right here. I had Illinois at what was it? They were 8 for 4. No, sorry, no, 8 for 14.
Yeah,
So they didn't really shoot well, but from the free throw line. But Illinois playing good basketball, and hopefully Tennessee can get this turnaround next week.
yeah,
A couple more good ones. St. John's knocked off Ole Miss by 5. Uh, Solid game by both these teams.
yeah, for sure.
Um,
Um, they didn't. St. John's didn't shoot great, but I don't think Ole Miss is as good as people thought they were. They're kind of lacking this year. Kind of lackluster on the offensive side, and people have seen that the last couple of weeks. So even though St. John's beat them by 5, I honestly think they should have beat them by a lot more. St. John's just had a bad shooting night and didn't make too
Both
much.
teams did.
Ole Miss, again, they haven't made too much either.
Yeah, I mean,
Dio
just
was great for Ole Miss, but that was it.
Yeah, I mean, both teams really didn't shoot the ball well at all. So hopefully something that will get improved as the season goes on. Want to give a shout out to the Bonnies, St. Bonaventure, giving Buffalo the first loss of the season 77-69 on Saturday.
Yeah, great win for them. They're looking better by the minute. I know you love them. Great A10 team. They got some dogs on there. They had I think 6 people score double digits in that game, and Buffalo's a good team out of the MAC.
They were undefeated.
They've looked great this year. Yeah, so great win for them. Buffalo's got some good guys, and they stuffed them throughout that game.
Yeah, and then move to another big dog fight this weekend. Duke and Michigan State. Duke knocking off Michigan State 66-60. Duke was trailing at halftime.
They were indeed by 3, and Michigan State was giving them some crap during that game. For a while I thought that Michigan State was going to pull that off. Thought they could. They definitely can. They've got the players. They've got the team. They're great. Just Duke has some dogs on that team as well. Obviously, Boozer with another great game, a double-double in that game, 18 and 15. It just shows how good they are. Shows how they can come back from a deficit, even at half, and show how well coached they are. That's 2 big games for them this last week, and they beat both teams, 2 great teams at that. And I think Michigan State can definitely, rise up to a national title contending team. And so, just another one Duke is knocked off. Just looking. I know Arizona moved up to number 1 in the nation, but Duke deserves probably just as much credit for that as well.
Yeah, most definitely. And we moved to the big upset of the weekend. Iowa State knocks off Purdue 81-58.
Man. Yeah. At half they were only up 4. And Iowa State came out in the second half and just blew them out of the water. Purdue couldn't do anything during that game. But Iowa State's defense is so good. Pretty sure they're number 2 in the nation. They have the number 2 ranked defense in the nation, and they just threw Purdue off their rhythm. They had nothing. Braden Smith can only do so much. And he's not really a one-on-one guy. He doesn't just one-on-one guys and takes on baskets a lot. So if you can make him do that, which is basically what Iowa State did, you can beat Purdue. But it's one of the woes that people had about Purdue. Their defense is not. It hasn't been great. And that's the fear of most people when you talk about Purdue. Yes, they still are a national title contending team. And look, yeah, I know they lost by as much as they did, 23 points. But don't be too worried. Purdue can get it fixed. Their offense is still great. I think Iowa State just went into that game and kind of threw them off their rhythm, and they didn't really know what to do. They got punched in the mouth and couldn't really punch back. But then you look at Iowa State, who has 3 guys, if the season were to end right now, All-Americans. So, you can't really say, hey, it was just like a bad game for Purdue. It was a great game for Iowa State. They looked amazing. They're definitely not national title contenders if they keep playing like this. Yeah.
Yeah, and as you just mentioned, and me and you talked about it after the game. This team proves week in, week out that they can be a national title contender, playing great basketball as they are right now. I wouldn't be surprised if I see them playing for national championship in March.
Oh, so 100%. 100%. Milan's amazing. He had a great game, had 20 points that game. And again, they threw him off the rhythm. The defense is too good. So their defense can someone like Houston from last year, their defense can get them. Their offense is good enough. They have scorers. But if their defense is as good as they were against Purdue, they definitely can make a run.
Yeah. And I mean, definitely something we're excited to see. I'm excited to see. I mean, I think this is going to be a national title contender.
For sure.
That's going to close out the basketball for all the recap of the games of the week. But we're going to give you some games to watch this week that we think are going to be pretty exciting and must watches for sure. We'll start with Clemson BYU.
Good game there.
Villanova Michigan.
That should be
McNeese Rhode
an
Island.
interesting game.
Mm-hmm. We got McNeese Rhode Island. One I'm definitely interested to look at for sure. Yeah. Florida UConn.
Great game tomorrow night. Playing at Madison Square Garden in the Jimmy V Classic. So will be a lot of people there. Will be a great game to watch.
Definitely. We got a Big Ten battle. Wisconsin, Nebraska. Nebraska's been getting hot. They've been playing good basketball.
Huskers, Cornhuskers.
I believe they've entered the AP poll today at 23. Did I see that
so.
right?
Yeah. Yep. They were at 23. They're playing a good Wisconsin team, so it'll be a good win for them if they can get it.
Yeah. Oh yeah. And then we got the in-state rivalry, Iowa State. Iowa's played well this year, but Iowa State just they're going to play some good basketball.
Yeah, that should be a fun game to watch. Iowa, like you said, Iowa's been good this year, but I mean, Iowa State's looked even better. So we'll see what happens there.
Mm-hmm. Then we got Arkansas, Texas Tech. Another good one.
Yeah, that should be a good high-scoring game there. A couple of great players in that game. We'll see how much JT Toppin can do for Texas Tech. I know the last couple of weeks has been kind of tough for them, but
yeah, I mean yesterday they solidified a good win against the LSU Tigers.
They did.
I believe they started the game 7 of 8 from 3. I mean, they got hot from the 3 line. They ended up finishing in 48%, but they got hot from 3 at the start of the game, and they could definitely be a dangerous team.
For sure.
But this, I think it's going to be an interesting matchup. George Washington's playing Florida. I'm interested to see how that one plays out. I think, obviously, Goodman Major and George Washington playing as the opponent. Definitely interested to see how well
I actually meant to look and see where George Washington ranks in KenPom this week. Because I don't know right now. Let me look it up and see. I believe they're one of the best in the nation, KenPom wise for mid majors, and yeah, they've played some great ball. One of the better mid major teams for sure. So they can definitely give Florida a run for their money. It won't be an easy game, like most people probably would expect from a team. Well, from someone like Florida playing George Washington. They're ranked 60th in the nation in KenPom. They're 20th in offensive rating in the country. So, yeah, they can definitely run with the ball, score some points. So it'll be tough to see what Florida does against them. We'll see if they can handle that. I mean, it'll be tough. I mean, Florida's right behind them in offensive rating at 24. So technically, George Washington's above them. So it'll be an interesting game to watch.
Definitely. Nebraska, Illinois. Illinois got a big win against Tennessee this week, and Nebraska, we just talked about, getting hot.
This could be a good week.
I think it's gonna be an interesting one to see for sure.
Yeah.
So I'm excited to see
2 good wins if they can pull both. They start in Big Ten play. They could get 2 great wins.
Definitely. We got Utah State playing the mid-major Illinois State. Illinois State's been really well this year, played really well this year, man. And so is Utah State. Utah State's going to be, I think, definitely be up top the Mountain West this year as one of the best teams in the conference.
State has, not just a great team. They have they're obviously not playing at home, but their home court advantage is also great as well. Heard it's one of the loudest in the nation. So, but they've got Collins Jr. in that team, who's averaging 20 points for Utah State. So it should be an interesting game, though. Like you said, Illinois State has been good this year. They've played good ball, and they have I think 5 double-digit scores to average double digits. So that should be a good game to watch.
Definitely. And then I got an interesting one. Kansas and NC State. I think it's gonna be an exciting one to see.
Yeah,
Uh,
NC State hasn't really done what people have thought they would this year so far. They haven't gotten obviously haven't started ACC play yet, so we'll wait to see when that comes what they can actually do in conference. But so far in non-conference, they haven't done amazing. Obviously, they went to Maui, didn't do you know relatively as good as they wanted to. People thought they would win that tournament, didn't. So, but they have great players like Darion Williams, great player as well. And then Kansas, on the other hand, they've got some dogs on there too. So we'll see what going to NC State, what can they do?
yeah. And we're kind of gonna fly by these last few games just so we get on to our next segment of college football. But got Arizona State, Santa Clara. I think
Yeah,
it's gonna be an exciting one to watch.
for sure.
Um, Indiana, Kentucky. This is gonna be Kentucky's got to be Kentucky's get back game, man. I mean they've got to turn this around.
Yeah,
Mark
I don't
Mark
know.
Pope and that team
They
knows
kind
they've
of
got to turn it around.
yeah. Indiana didn't have the greatest game on what Saturday they played Sunday. I can't remember when they played. Um, they didn't have the greatest game the other day against Louisville. On it was Saturday, but yeah, Kentucky's got to get something going. We'll see if they actually can playing at home again. And man, if they lose this game, and we'll talk about whom here in just a minute, but if they lose this game, it might go downhill fast.
Definitely. UCLA Gonzaga. The UCLA's looking to turn around, kind of start playing a little better.
For sure.
And then Gonzaga's been doing what they've been doing. I think
Okay.
it's gonna be a good matchup to watch.
Yeah.
Um, got an interesting one. Got Nevada and Duquesne put on this list. A10 versus Mountain West. Nevada going to be another one of those teams up top the Mountain West, and Duquesne's going to be competing in the A10. So
Yeah.
I think it's
And
going to be. I
Nevada
think
got a good win the other day. They got
they
a,
beat.
a great win against UCSD on Tuesday last week. So great Big West team that they beat, and probably will win the Big West. So yeah, this Nevada team is looking like a team to compete.
Definitely. Then we got St. Mary's and Boise State. Um, I expect Boise looking to like keep improving on their season. I expect them to be, of course, another one of those teams kind of competing for a Mountain West title.
Hmm.
Um, Against St. Mary's, obviously, good ball
Great
squad.
team. Hmm.
Um, I think it'll be an interesting game to see for sure.
For sure.
Then we got Tulane and UCSD. Obviously,
Just talking
UCSD
about UCSD, yeah.
took a
Two
loss to
great teams
Nevada, but
there. Um,
Mhm.
yeah, definitely a team in Tulane who can compete in the AAC this year, possibly win it, and then obviously UCSD who I mean, will probably run the Big West again this year.
And then final one, we got Illinois, Ohio State. Again, Illinois getting a big win against Tennessee. And then, going to play a good Nebraska team.
Hmm.
So we'll see how this game turns out. Ohio State knocking off Northwestern this weekend.
Yeah,
So we'll see what they can do and how these two teams compete.
yeah, for sure. But I hope this is not your last game, because there's another big game on Saturday, an even bigger game than that in Arizona, Alabama.
I thought I had them on here, but
Yeah, but Arizona, Alabama play a late game on Saturday. Should be an amazing game. A lot of scoring
I'm
probably in that game. Something that
definitely must
Alabama,
watch.
yeah, for sure, must watch. Yeah, Alabama obviously has some great wins already this year. St. John's being one of them, but Arizona can basically solidify that they're the number one team in the nation. This would be
I,
what the fifth game against a really good team. And
I
they've
believe
yeah
so.
they if they win this game as well and or they dominate this game more like it, then man, Arizona might be a force to handle this year.
Obviously, and of course, clearly, we got a lot of good games this week. So
Oh
another good week
yeah,
of college basketball. So excited to
always,
watch.
always.
So I want to do a little stress meter here, but I really just want to talk about a couple teams
Okay.
that that just have took a massive downfall. We start off with
Hmm.
Oregon. I mean,
Yeah, yeah.
just struggling.
Oregon's been tough, man. They really, I mean, like you said, they haven't been really doing what people thought they would be doing this year. Um, people thought going into the year that Big Ten play would be good for them. You could possibly compete up there with some of the big dogs, and they haven't looked it up to that challenge. They've lost uh, 5 in a row right now. Yeah, 5 in a row. It's bad. They started 4-0, 5 in a row in losses. And they've lost by big margins too. So they've got to step it up. They're not scoring a ton of points. Their offense isn't really very efficient. Shooting 40% from the field, 31% from 3-point, but they're 292nd in points per game at 72.9. They're not assisting the ball. They're turning the ball over a lot. They're not really being efficient on the offensive side, and the defensive side they're not doing too much. They're not really giving teams struggles to put up shots. Teams are basically just getting what they kind of want. They had a tough game the other night against USC last week on Tuesday. They played good, lost by 5. That's the closest margin they've lost to in the last 5 games. That wasn't by double digits. So they competed. They looked like what they could possibly look like, what people thought they would look like against, USC. But at the same time, man, struggles just keep on piling up for them.
Yeah, I mean, sad. I mean, 5 straight losses.
Mm-hmm.
You really hope we can get that turned around. And the next team, I mean, brutal. Creighton got blown out by 21 against Nebraska.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I don't even know what to say.
Man, Creighton is not the Creighton team people thought they would. Honestly, even though the Big East isn't great this year, they might be able to compete, be like 3rd, 4th maybe. Maybe they could get a bid, a large bid into the tournament, but they're right now they're on the track to miss it. And that would be crazy to hear that Creighton were to miss the tournament. I mean, what they've been able to do the last few years and just shooting a ton of threes and making a ton of them and scoring it isn't what they really do this year. Their defense isn't great. They can't really stop other guys from scoring. They've had some close games, but then like the other day, they lost by 21 to Nebraska on yesterday. So, it's just like you look at the Creighton team and go, there's people there to score. They shoot 45% from the field, which isn't great. It's just they're not shooting efficiently from 3 like they have in years past. They don't really have the players or the guys just to take over a game, or to give the ball to and make a shot down the stretch, to kind of stop some bleeding. So right now, I think if you're Creighton, you kind of just go into Big East play and kind of hope you can turn something around. And yeah, I don't know. I know I didn't give I realized I didn't give a stress meter, 1 to 10 on how much I was for Oregon. For Oregon, I would say probably like a 7 or an 8. They've got to turn around, got to get better on the offensive side. Same thing for Creighton. Honestly, I'm probably at like a 9 or a 10 because they could easily miss the tournament.
I will say about all these teams on this list for me, and I mean, above or 7 pluses.
Yeah,
And that's kind of, I mean, I really just want to talk about them because I mean, it's been bad. And I mean, moving on to Florida State, I mean, the team me and you talked about could be, highly ranked this year and play good basketball. And I mean, got blown out by Georgia this week. Played a tough Houston team, but lost by 15, I want to say. But I just
they did.
don't, what happened there?
They did. Man, yeah, I had people had high hopes for them this year. Obviously, last year they had high hopes bringing in a new guy, an NBA guy as their coach. People thought he could turn them around. They were kind of on that level this year to begin the year. Played like we've mentioned them before in this stress meter last week, and they played Florida close. Had every chance to win that game. You know, and then they go to Texas A&M, get blown out by 36, and then they go to Georgia, where they get blown out by 34. And then you go to obviously a good Houston team, maybe something to turn around, maybe look a little bit better, and they lost by 15. They can't really do much. They can't really stick around. They're not shooting well. They didn't shoot well against Houston. The reason they lost the Florida game was they couldn't make shots down the stretch. They also couldn't really defend as well as they wanted to. Haven't been able to do that against some teams like Georgia or Texas A&M. And yeah, it looks bad for them. Honestly, it's probably like, even though they're not people weren't really expecting them to be like a national title contender or be in the top 20 this year or anything. They expected a lot better year than last year, and even though they might do that, ACC plays is gonna be difficult for them. I mean, scale 1 to 10 for me, I would probably give like a 7, or just because of the fact that, again, they're not like meant to be amazing this year, so they can definitely do better than they have in the past couple of years, and turn some stuff around. But at the same time, they probably won't do too much in the ACC and will probably be one of the bottom teams again.
Yeah, I mean, their struggles. I mean, we talked about them, of course. Obviously, didn't expect them to be national title contenders, but expected definitely a lot more from them, and they
Sure.
just quite haven't lived up to that. And then the final team, I mean, a rough week. We talked about them, and I mean, I feel like
Yeah,
we're going to talk about them every week until they get turned around. Kentucky. I mean, the struggles continue, and it just makes you wonder if it's even possible to get this team turned around.
man, it's a 10 for Kentucky. I mean, it's a 10, maybe an 11 at this point. I mean, it's bad. I mean, everything's on fire in Kentucky right now. You just throw it in the furnace, and let it burn at this point, because it's terrible. Like we said, they can't shoot. They have no efficiency on offense. They can't do anything. 13 minutes of no buckets in the last 2 games combined. Just terrible. You can't do that. It's a Mark Pope team that people didn't expect. That's something you don't expect from a team like Kentucky. $22 million spent on this roster at Kentucky to try to get them a national championship, to compete. They're a national championship contender going into the year, a favorite at that, one of the teams who can compete with any team in the nation, and it's been a total letdown. A total letdown. I don't even know. They don't have anybody they don't have anybody to, shoot the ball, to give it to him down the stretch. Otega Oweh, not like last year. Nothing like last year so far. He's been a letdown. And, maybe they can turn it around, play somewhat good in the SEC. They'll win some games they shouldn't, and they'll, lose some games they shouldn't. But man, especially at Kentucky fans, even though Mark Pope is a legend there and everybody loves him, you just know if Kentucky can't get this figured out really quick, I know those fans are going to make him be on the hot seat, because this is not what they paid money for. This is not what they expected. This is not what they should be. This is the worst Kentucky team in a while, and I would say it's even worse than most of the Calipari teams in the last couple of years that he was there when they weren't too great. This is worse than that. I mean, right now they're on track to miss the tournament, something that Kentucky shouldn't do, especially with a team like they have. They have the guys. Just nobody they have nobody to finish games. They have nobody to give the ball to when they need to. Just nothing. Everything's going downhill for Kentucky. Obviously, start SEC play here soon, and maybe they can get something figured out. They'll win some big games. They'll lose some bad games. That's pretty much what they'll be.
Yeah, and like I said, we're hoping for a turnaround um, fast for Kentucky fans.
Yeah.
Um, really, just they got to turn it around.
Hmm.
Um, so we'll definitely be paying attention to that, see what if they can do it. Before we get into the bracket, let's run through a couple hires this week very fast.
Hmm.
Kind of surprised us, and I think a lot of people,
Uh-huh.
especially real quick, Matt Campbell taking the Penn State job, moving from Iowa State to Penn State. I mean,
Yeah.
definitely
Yeah.
caught me off guard.
I think it caught most people off guard. I know his name was reported at the beginning of the week, um, the middle of the week last week, and it was reported that he might take it. They were talking about it, and then all of a sudden, a day or two later, he's finalizing a
Took it.
deal. So I don't know. I mean, I don't know what your thoughts are. I don't think it's a bad hire. At the same time, I think he was under the radar a little bit because of the team, because of Iowa State not really being the team they were supposed to be this year. They finished 8-4, didn't have a bad year, just didn't really do as much as they wanted. So I don't think most people were thinking of Matt Campbell as a participant, in the coaching job at Penn State. But again, Penn State finally got a coach, which is good for them. Maybe they can start getting the ball rolling. He's going to have to use the transfer portal to, the absolute max that he possibly can.
Yeah, I mean, and like I said, I mean, we talked about it a lot. I mean, I didn't really know who would take the job. I mean, the program seemed to be kind of just in a little bit of a tumble. I mean, nobody knew what was going to happen.
Yeah.
You go get Matt Kimball, solid coach, and like you talked about, I mean, they're going to have to use the portal, which I think a lot of teams are doing clearly.
Yeah.
But obviously, I think again, like I said, they're going to have to build a roster from the portal. But I think it was a solid hire for them, and I think I think he'll do good things there at Penn State. And then right after that, Jimmy Rogers is leaving Washington State and headed to Iowa State. So they
Man,
filled that role. They filled that role pretty fast.
for real, they must have had him on speed dial after they got rid of
Yeah.
Matt Campbell
Well,
because
I
it
I,
it happened
I
within
thought I
the
saw
next
something.
24 hours.
Yeah, I thought I saw something. Obviously, I don't really think I don't know. I don't think it's 100% true at all. I thought I saw someone like say something. It was like 45 minutes later that like they called him up right away. I mean, like
Yeah,
fast in a heartbeat. I mean, it was funny. 'Cause, I mean, I was just the next. I think I want to say like 2 hours later, I was reading up on the news, and then the next day I just looked real quick, happened to finish reading it, and the next thing I know, Jimmy Rogers heading to Iowa State. So
yeah,
fast
I,
hire, and excited to see how that goes for them.
yeah. I don't think it's a bad hire for sure. I think Iowa State can do something with him. I think he can do something with the team. Obviously, he had a competitive Washington State team this year that competed in a lot of good games, especially in Oxford against Ole Miss, and then the
Oh
next
yeah.
week against Louisville, right? So
Mhm.
yeah, I think it's not a bad hire, but yeah, they must have had him on speed dial or something
It
because they
feels
got
like it.
him
I mean,
quickly.
it was fast.
Yeah,
So good for those two teams at least getting that sorted out and figured out.
for sure.
Um, and of course, now we're going to jump into what we've all been waiting for and what it feels like we've been waiting for since last Tuesday on Sunday, sitting there on the couch, waiting to see the selection show. Uh, I just want to get your thoughts. I mean, what do you think? How do you think it's all panned out?
Man, we'll take a look at the bracket here, and we'll basically show it here, and you know, it's basically what it is. It came out, and hey, I'll say I was sitting in my room watching it, and was waiting for number 10 to come up,
Gosh, dude, the
and
anticipation, like I'm like, come on, let's get through this.
I know I I thought they were gonna do 11 and 12 first, and then go back to 10 just because of the anticipation of it. But at the same time, you look at it and he, they were talking about it beforehand, and they were talking about it on Saturday. Nobody really knew who they're gonna put in. Obviously, the committee, you know, talking about it all throughout the night. They had to rewatch the Notre Dame Miami game. That's what the committee leader had said. He told him to go and watch it again just to look and see who they should put in. And well, come Sunday, I'm sitting here waiting for number 10 to show up, and I'm honestly thinking they're probably not going to change too much. Notre Dame's probably going to get in just because of the fact that they've been ahead of them all year, and I just didn't really
Hmm.
think the committee was going to change that. I thought they were going to stick to their guts there, and Miami shows up. And I mean, I don't know about you, but I audibly said, "Wow," because as much as I wasn't really surprised because maybe they, finally looked at the head to head and said, we're going to put them ahead of that. At the same time, though, it was like, well, the last few weeks they've had Notre Dame ahead, so like they didn't play anything this week. Nothing happened, so why flip them? But other than that, though, I, everything else kind of made sense to me and made sense to what
Hmm.
has, been the last few weeks.
Yeah, definitely. Obviously, we talk about, of course, the big controversy going to Sunday was the Miami Notre Dame and even Alabama.
Yeah.
Um, Obviously, there was a lot of talk about it with,
Yeah.
would they talk about the head to head or not? Obviously, that being one of the criterias. I mean, that's obviously one of the things they talk about was the head to
Hmm.
head. I think another kind of surprise and more of the question, you know, Alabama and BYU, both played the conference championship, both got obliterated. Um,
Sure.
Alabama didn't stand a chance in that game.
Yeah.
-3 rushing yards, got blown out. BYU hung in
Insane.
there for a while until later in the second half. I think they had 5 turnovers, or at least 4 in that second half. Got
Yeah.
blown out in the game. Um,
Hmm.
but I think one thing we talk about Miami didn't, or excuse me, not Miami. Alabama didn't move at all after getting blown out, and BYU dropped, bringing Miami up right next to Notre Dame.
Hmm.
And the committee, I always talk about it. A chairman or committee chairman looked at the head-to-head and said, "Miami's above Notre Dame." Um,
Yeah.
I think I said, like you said too, I wasn't too surprised.
Hmm.
It was one of those things I wouldn't be surprised either way.
True.
But like you talked about in last Tuesday's selection show, head-to-head didn't seem to matter. Um,
Yeah.
and we heard the chairman kind of say it. It didn't seem like the head-to-head mattered until they were right next to each other. That's when they said the head-to-head was going to matter. And I don't know. To me, that's what it kind of felt like. I mean, I feel like it's practically what he said.
That's exactly what he said. He said they. I mean, that's not even. That's word for word what he said. He said the head to head did not matter until they got right next to each other. They weren't even looking at that as a possibility. They weren't looking at that as a criteria for who to put in or who to rank. They until come Sunday until come Saturday when BYU lost and they dropped them down the spot and put Miami and Notre Dame right next to each other, and then they were like, well, might as well look at head to head now. So I know me and you talked about it, and if the precedent, if this is going to be the precedent for going forward, or if they're going to keep a consistent basis on what they do and how they rank teams and how they put them in, then so be it. That's great. That's good. I think head to head should matter. I mean, obviously, you beat a team, you probably should be ahead of them. But at the same time, you know, I was saying the other day to you was, well, it's just weird how they did it. It's weird how they went through the process of doing it. You talk about last Tuesday, and Chairman said, "Oh, well, yeah, we ranked Notre Dame ahead of Miami because we think they're the better team. We think eye test wise they're the better team right now. We're gonna put them ahead." But they moved Alabama up ahead of Notre Dame, left a spot in between Notre Dame and Miami and BYU, and I think that kind of set it up. I don't know if it was the goal of that, was, hey, let's put BYU there, and if they lose, then perfect. We can move Miami up for a reason. Or not. I don't know if that was the discussion in the room for that, but I told you, I was like, I think it surprised me, and it would have made more sense if the
Yeah,
committee would have just put Notre Dame behind Miami last Tuesday and just set the precedent that, hey, Miami's going to get in, because they didn't have anything to look at this week. There was nothing
that's
there. There was nothing new that they hadn't had. The season had already ended for those two teams. They weren't
those two
playing for anything
resumes.
else. Yeah, their resumes were complete. There was nothing else to look at, nothing else to judge. So I
Yeah,
just thought, if you're going to put Notre Dame where you did last week, then why flip them now? Not saying Miami shouldn't deserve it, not saying Miami shouldn't get in, but it's just, why did they flip them now when they had almost a whole week of nothing? There was nothing that happened for those two teams. They could have done
yeah,
that last Tuesday and just gone ahead and put Miami in and said, hey, look, they're going to get in the playoffs. Because I think if you're Notre Dame, for example, and I know they've had a lot to say, but if you're Notre Dame, for example, you look at that and you go, well, we were ahead of them last week. We didn't do anything. Nothing happened at all. No game, no resume change, nobody that, played that we both, nothing happened. And all of a sudden we flip now because BYU loses. So, like, it just, I don't think it's a bad choice. I don't think it's a bad decision, because if you're going to look at head to head, you should look at head to head for everybody. We've said it. But at the same time, it was just confusing.
yeah. I mean, again, and you talk about it. The chairman last Tuesday had said Notre Dame's ahead of Miami because they're the better team.
Yeah.
So I feel like when you say that, it's set in stone because you've got nothing to look at. That's your final ranking. It seems like for those two
Yeah.
teams. Um, like you talked about, I want a consistency. If the head to head's a criteria, it's got to be criteria.
Yeah.
But you talk about it, why change now? Um, and BYU moved down a spot because he said, well, yeah, BYU moved down a spot. They got blown out. They didn't perform well.
Hmm.
I look at Alabama and ask myself the same question. I get
Yeah.
the resume, and I get, you know, they're playing a good Georgia team in the SEC championship game. But BYU played a good Texas Tech team. I mean, it just seemed a little weird to me that both teams performed the exact same. But BYU only BYU moves down a spot, and Alabama just kind of gets to sit where they are. Um,
Yeah. I think we had talked about this last week. I think the committee kind of solidified that Alabama was going to be in the playoff with their ranking last week of moving them ahead of Notre Dame. I think that was the whole goal of that. I think basically they were saying, hey, look, conference championships matter in the sense of the teams that playing deserve to play, and they don't deserve to be hurt if they do lose. Hey, you saw with Ohio State, they got beaten, only flipped with Indiana. So I think that was the precedent they set. They submitted, and I think that's what they went by. And I don't hate it because again, you shouldn't punish a team that played good to get there, and then have an off day. Obviously, Alabama and BYU both got blown out. Alabama looked way worse than they have all year, basically, other than the FSU game at the beginning of the year. So yeah, at the same time, you could look at it and go, hey, well, they should move. And I know a lot of people thought that, and a lot of people thought that maybe they would. And I think the discussion was mostly Notre Dame, Miami, but at the same time, I think it was kind of a weird thing of going, why aren't we looking Alabama versus Notre Dame? Because now Alabama got their third loss, a 21-point loss to Georgia. Obviously, it's in the SEC championship game. But at the same time, people might have been questioning that and might have been asking themselves, why not move them? I personally think that was the right decision. I don't think Alabama should have moved below Miami and Notre Dame. Again, can't punish a team for doing good. And they also have arguably the best win in the nation in beating Georgia at Athens, in Athens. So at the same time, their resume, their full year, on paper is better than Miami and Notre
yeah,
Dame. So I think it's fair.
yeah, no, I think it's fair too. And I mean, again, I think Alabama should have still been in the playoff either way. I wasn't obviously. I think they should still be in no matter what, and that was my thought after the game. I mean, they should still be in the playoff. I
Hmm.
don't think they should have gotten punished, as in getting booted out of the playoff. I
Yeah,
just thought they'd move down at least a spot, go down to the
for
10,
sure.
and someone like Notre Dame would jump them, or based off what was said last week about Notre Dame being the better team than Miami, it kind of seemed that way. And
Hmm.
obviously, again, there's a lot of talk about Alabama, but I 100% agree. I think they have one, if not the best resume in the country.
For sure.
They played well this year. I think they definitely should have been in the playoff,
Yeah.
even after getting blown out. But I think there's definitely a lot of questions about, the Alabama, Miami, Notre Dame, and that was the big talk of the week,
Oh
was how
yeah.
that was all going to play out.
Oh
Um,
yeah. Everybody was wondering that going into Sunday. What was going to happen. Everybody was wondering that at half of the SEC championship game. What's going to happen Sunday if Alabama were to lose this by a lot. And again, we've talked about it before. Alabama down the stretch hasn't looked amazing. They're going to have to, get some good play to go back and get some revenge on an Oklahoma team in Norman. It's not going to be easy. That game's going to be fun to watch. We'll see if Ty Simpson can fix some of those mistakes and maybe their running game cannot be so bad. But at the same time, you look at them and go, yeah, they deserve to be in. They deserve to be playing Oklahoma. Um, I would have loved to see not a rematch, but at the same time, I think the rematch makes it kind of fun because they can go get some revenge and move on and beat a team who almost cost them a chance at the playoff. Um,
mhm.
so yeah, I mean, Alabama looked terrible this week, but again, don't think it should hurt them. It's like people thought it probably should have. And I think one of the points in that was because if you do move Alabama, I know the committee in years past when we were um, still in 4-team playoffs, Like Georgia was number 1 a few years ago when they lost the SEC championship and then dropped all the way to 6 and was out of the playoff, and
Hmm.
everybody hated that, you know. And I think the problem was this week was if you move Alabama and you drop them from the rankings after losing an SEC game, an SEC championship game, then you're going to set the precedent that these games don't matter and that the championship games don't mean anything. And I think it would have been a a very big problem for the conferences if that were to happen. Because then I think if you're the SEC commissioner, you're going, well, if that's the case, then we're not going to put any of your teams in the SEC championship. I'm going to tell teams not to play. I'm going to tell teams to drop out. Because if they go to that game and they lose like Alabama did, and let's just say Alabama did drop, well, then why are we going to play them? You know, if it's only nothing but it's going to hurt us and there's no pros to playing in the game, then, you know, there's no point in playing. So I think that was one of the talks this week was how bad it would have been if, per se, Alabama would have dropped out, because I think you would see a lot of teams that just say no to conference championships if that would have happened.
Hmm. And I think this is a question talked about. I remember on the set they were talking about on the set before the rankings came out. Should the play in the championship game be taken into consideration, or should it be a big factor, or is it kind of just we're going to give this is kind of a freebie almost? One of you guys can solidify your spot as a conference champion, get yourself a high seed, get a bye, or you don't perform well, we can move you, or
I I think
I mean,
I think if you were a team like BYU, per se, then I think it does mean something to you. Obviously for BYU, if they win, they're in. If they like they lost, they're not in. I think for teams like that, it is. I think if you're Alabama, per se, or Georgia or Indiana or Ohio State or Texas Tech, people like that who played in a conference championship game, no matter the outcome for them, eh, you know, unless you're right on that cusp of getting in, like BYU, I would say you're not guaranteed to get hurt by that game, no matter the outcome. Um, but if you play good, like if you say you were BYU, or even let's say if Georgia was just outside of the playoff some year, and then they were to beat Alabama like they did, then yeah, there's a benefit to that. There's a big benefit to wanting that. Um, so yeah, I think they still mean something for specific teams. They don't mean something to everybody because almost every single conference championship game is going to have one, if not two, um, basically solidified, uh, you know, opponents in the college football playoff. And so I think for those, it doesn't mean too much. But I think it will be harder, per se, if you were like, let's say Miami, and you were sitting right in the 10 line, and if they would have made the ACC championship, what would have happened if they lost? I think that's where the discussion comes in of if you're right on that line, what happens if you're that 10, if you're that 10 seed in the playoff going into the week and you were to lose, what would that do for you? Um, but I think the discussion now is basically we know that conference championships, you can't really, like, again, you can't really be hurt for playing good ball.
yeah, and I think a prime example is kind of last year. We talked about SMU
Mm-hmm.
and
Yeah.
when they lost in the ACC
Mm-hmm.
championship game, obviously a close game, but
Yeah.
they weren't going to get punished
Yeah, they
for
dropped
that.
4 spots, but still stayed in the playoffs. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, and I think that's obviously the big discussion. And I think we're all trying to come to the happy medium of how we can um, make the playoffs the best it can be, whether
Sure.
it's the criteria or who can get in. And
Mm-hmm.
I think at the end of the day, I think the committee um, did the right thing with putting Miami in,
Yeah.
as in following the criteria they set.
Mm-hmm.
I just again the big thing to talk about is the inconsistency with them. You know,
Yeah.
and and it goes back to last week again. On Tuesday you kind of solidified what you had said about the teams.
Hmm.
Well, Notre Dame was playing better. They're better. I think they're the better team. That's why they're up here. Miami's down here. And then this week, just because they were put up close together, that's when the head-to-head finally mattered. Um,
Yeah.
I think if it's going to matter, you got to make it matter.
True.
And I think if the head-to-head is a big criteria to you, then you got to make it the big priority. You got to flip them then and there.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah, for sure. I think it was weird how he said they had not looked at head to head basically until this week, until they were right next to each other. I think in the future that could be a problem. Obviously, it almost became a problem this year. Um,
mhm.
and you basically, again, like people have said, if that were to happen, you solidify the fact of why play these games and why win these games if they're not gonna, do anything good for us. And so I think it is weird to look at. It's weird to comprehend why the committee made such decisions in the past few weeks because they easily had every chance in the world to move Miami ahead of Notre Dame, weeks ago, and they didn't. And especially a week before, and they still say, hey, Notre Dame's a better team. Notre Dame right now is said to be in the playoffs. And you look at it and you go, but how? And then you have nothing to work off of, nothing to look at, and all of a sudden, well, now here's our decision. Here's our thought now. We're gonna change those roles there. We're gonna reverse them, and we're now Miami's gonna be ahead of Notre Dame based off nothing new. And the guy said he had to go make all the committee members go and watch that game again, the Notre Dame versus Miami game. And I'm just thinking, well, that game happened 13 weeks ago.
A
So,
long, long time
yeah,
ago.
if it happened 13 weeks ago, why are we just now rewatching it now, or why are we just now making that decision based off that game that happened that far ago now? Why is it a flip now? I think in the end they made the right decision. Yeah, again, like you said, we want to see some consistency in what they do. And so if this is what it's going to be, then good job. They're sticking to it. They're going to keep up with it. And they better do that in the future years. But at the same time, why did it take so long if that's the case? If the committee
Yeah,
knows what they want to do, why don't they just do it? Especially with two teams like this who didn't play for anything this week.
and yeah, the setup was weird. And
Yeah.
again, like I mean, I was just talking about the game was over 3 months ago. But again, if you got a criteria, you got to stick to it. You
True.
can't be inconsistent with what you're saying. If the head to head's not going to matter, then you got to scratch it off the list. That shouldn't be a
Hmm.
criteria then. I mean, if it's not going to matter, like it almost seemed like it wasn't going to matter, then why is it even a criteria? Um,
Yeah. I don't know.
and,
It's weird.
yeah, and then one other thing to talk about, and I think it was talked about, a lot of past, since yesterday. Notre Dame needs to join a conference has been kind of the talk. I think a lot of people have been saying Notre Dame needs to join a conference. I kind of just want to get your thoughts and your input on that.
Well, I don't think they will anytime soon. I don't think it's going to happen because I think everybody saw it yesterday, the MOU that came out. There's no reason for them to move now. I, did you see that?
I actually let me look. I think I actually liked it. I think I meant to share it to you.
Yeah,
But I think if
so
I
what they've
remember,
come
did he
out
say
with,
something?
well, what they came out with now is
I
if
was
Notre Dame in the starting next year, if Notre Dame is ranked within the top 12, they are guaranteed a playoff spot.
hmm. I'm
Yeah.
trying to see because I
So
know I thought I
I
liked
don't
something like
think,
it. I don't know if I.
even though it would be easy for them to join a conference, I know their AD basically roasted the ACC today and said how bad they are. Um, even though I know that was said, I don't think it's going to happen. There's no reason for them to join a conference now. There's absolutely zero reason. And I don't know what I think about it. It's weird. I I think, yeah, a part of me says, well, it's fair for a team that doesn't play in the in a conference to be able to have that opportunity. and to be ranked a certain degree, or a certain height in the rankings, and yeah, you have an automatic playoff spot. But at the same time, I go, but you're the only team that has that. You're the only team that applies to, and you're the only team that can play basically easy games. I mean, basically what they can do now is go into every season, play the easiest schedule known to man, go undefeated, maybe lose one game to a good team somewhere, be ranked top 12, and we're guaranteed. I mean, if that would have been this year, no matter the head-to-head against Miami, they would have gotten in over Miami. I mean, there would have been no discussion. They would have to be in. So basically, if Notre Dame's ranked within the top 12 for the next coming years, it's guaranteed. I mean, they're the only team in the nation that will have a guaranteed spot going into every year if they can just keep a ranking.
I don't know how I feel about that. I mean, I don't know, man. I don't.
It's weird.
But
I
see,
don't. It's hard
what?
because you look at it and go, well, they're top 12. If they have to be top 12, you could be a number 11 team, like say BYU, and not make it.
Mhm.
You're not guaranteed to make the playoff. It's only 10 teams. So, 10 teams without the conference champions and stuff. So, like, if that's the case, well, Notre Dame could be ranked 12 and they could skip 2 teams. They could have a team ranked 10 and 11 that don't get in, or 11 and don't get in. They could skip a team. They don't even have to do anything. They're not going to play a conference game like all these other guys. They don't have to do that. They don't have to play a tough schedule of that. They can schedule whoever they want because they're not limited to obviously a conference, particularly. I don't know. I thought it was weird. I just feel like it's an easy path, And if that's the case, what does it put on the committee in the coming years? Like, what do they look at to rank Notre Dame now? Because you can't look at them the same anymore. That basically what it basically sets that in stone is you can't look at them the same anymore because you could look at them and go, oh yeah, well they're 11-1 and they finished the season 11-1, but if we put them in the top 12, they're guaranteed a spot. And if they're not better than a team that's ranked 10 or 11 or 12, what are we going to do? Yeah, they might be 11-1, but are they really better than these teams, or have they just beat people that they should beat? Have they just beat a ton of bad teams and just gone that record? It just,
And I
I don't know. I don't love it, to say the least.
I don't either. I mean, I just don't think I agree with that in one bit. I mean, you kind of getting a hand me down. If you're inside the top 12, you're going to be in.
Yeah,
So I mean, you look at it this year, they were in the top 12, they're getting a spot. Um,
true.
I just don't think, I look at other teams who have to schedule a tough I mean, you talk about the SEC teams, they're going to have to schedule a tough conference, the SEC being what it is.
Yeah,
Some teams aren't going to get in because Notre Dame's going to get a free spot, even
true.
if they perform well.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. I mean, I don't know. And they signed it last spring, so I can't remember if this was a topic of discussion last spring when it came out, if it did at all. I don't know if it was a story that came out then, um, but obviously it made headlines yesterday. When after they missed the playoff, it came out, um, even more for people to look at. So I just, starting next year now, Notre Dame's basically guaranteed a spot. They have an easy schedule next year. They have basically the same as that schedule they had this year. And again, they don't have tough opponents. They don't have, yeah, they might play in Miami. Yeah, they might play at Texas A&M. But this year, they lost to the 2 best teams they played, basically. Beat a USC team, but they go 10-2. They're ranked in the top 12. Well, you're in next year. Miami head-to-head doesn't matter. I think that's where the problem comes in, is that you can
And
have a
that's how
team like Miami who beat them, and this year they wouldn't. If that rule was this year, they wouldn't have got in. Head to head would not have mattered, and Notre Dame would have been the only team in the nation where that takes place. The only team, and I don't think it's fair to put them on a pedestal just because they're not in a
they don't have a
conference.
conference, and they
Yeah,
kind of refuse to join a conference.
yeah,
Like,
yeah,
they feel that they're refusing to join a conference. And with that being said, like you kind of talk about this year, like they kind of almost go above the criteria. Like they're kind of not above the law, but if that would have been the case this year, I mean, the criteria is thrown out the door. That list is a fat X. Doesn't
Yeah,
matter. It's crossed off. We don't care that sure maybe the margin of victory or your head to head is better.
yeah,
Guess what? They're in the top 12. They get the spot. Sucks to be you.
yeah. I don't know what that's going to do for college football because if you have another issue like this year, if you have another year like this year, it's gonna go. I mean, it's gonna go to crap really fast, and I think people are gonna get really angry about it because again, you're basically putting Notre Dame above the law. You basically are. You're basically saying, hey, Notre Dame, go lose 2 games and you're in the playoff. You know, it's whatever. Go lose 2 games, you're in the playoff. You're ranked 12. I mean, that's fine. Or they said if it moves to 16, they have to be within that top, or if it, they have to be within that top 14. They have to be ranked 14. Like
And
I just don't. That's going to be so easy for a Notre Dame. I don't remember the last time a Notre Dame team was ranked below that. Like that's going to be pretty easy for them to do, especially with how easy their schedules have been the last few years and what it is to set to be ahead. Like it's just, man, I don't think I think in the future, um, I think it'll get a lot of hate. It's obviously already getting a lot of hate, but I don't think it'll get any better. I don't think it'll get any more fair in hindsight. I don't think anybody's gonna like it.
no, I don't think so either. And you mentioned it there. I know, you talk about the 16 team. Is that, I mean, obviously, I know there's been a lot of talks about it. Kind of explain that format real quick. Like, as in, I know a lot of people kind of like talked about it. I don't know if it's going to affect or anything at all, but I know it's been something talked about.
I honestly think it probably won't be too long before we get to 16. I mean, especially
I,
this year,
I
you
just,
had 16 teams who could make the playoffs and 16 good teams. I don't think it will be that long until they do it again. Until they change it again. Um,
I just want to
basically
know what it's,
basically with the 16 teams, you'd have 5 buys, and then the rest of it would stay the same. Instead of 4 buys, you had 5. You had 2 more games. You still have group of 5 guys in. At least this is supposedly what the proposal would be. Everything would stay the same. Your top 5 teams get buys. You get a group of 5 team in there, and at the end, who gets 12? Or this year, who gets 11 and 12? And you just put in the teams up to 14, basically. Or 15. Like that's basically what people think will happen in the coming years. Obviously, the committee has nothing holding them back. They make the rules, so for all we know, it could happen next year. Obviously, it's probably not going to, but I think within the next 2 years it'll change.
I just don't know what's going to solve because I think at the end of the day, like I'll be the first to tell you, it's the same with March Madness, and that's a 68 team field. It,
Yeah,
there's always going to be controversy no matter what because we'll be saying, okay, well, why didn't the 17th ranked team get in here? Like the discussions are going to be the same. I just I just don't think it's
yeah,
going to make things
sure.
easier in my mind. Um, it's always going to be hard, and they've got a tough task at hand.
No,
Um,
and I was talking to my dad last night about it. I think it's only going to get more difficult the more teams you add. Because you look at it this year, you're debating, well, who's the best 2-loss team? Or even, who's the best 3-loss team with Alabama or Texas? You know? Well, you get to 16 teams, basically what you're going to be discussing is, well, who's the best 3-loss team? And you know how hard, that's going to be? You're going to have you have way more 3-loss teams who could, make a case to get in. Oh, well, we lost to this team, this team, and this team. And you're going to have somebody like Texas who has a terrible loss, at Florida, but then has 2 great wins. Or you can have somebody with, let's just say, 3 mediocre losses. They lost to all ranked teams, but maybe they're not as high, or maybe they didn't beat anybody as well as Texas did. Well, then what's the discussion now? Is it we go off of, well, who has the best losses? Because it's like That's just what all it's going to be. You're basically only making it harder the more teams you add. You see, the thing about March Madness that makes March Madness different is the fact that you were guaranteed 32 spots. There were guaranteed 32 spots in that tournament. And if you're if you're good enough to get one of those spots, you will get it. There's no discussion. That's what happens. And it's not as much discussion among those teams because mid majors have their own spot, and that's who's going to get in, and then you have all the big dogs, and basically you kind of solidify who's who, and it doesn't come down to small little details. And that's the thing about college football is you look at it this year, yeah, there's 16 teams who could have been in the playoff this year, definitely. If you had the 16-team playoff this year, it would have worked perfectly. But then some years, you might have 10 teams who deserve the playoff, and now we got to pick 6 teams to get in that, are okay. Like should they really be in? And I don't know. It's kind of like last year, you can take this year for example, JMU and Tulane. Well, it's amazing that they're in, and I think it's fun. I think they deserve to be in there, but at the same time, they're 99% not going to win the national championship. And this year you might have had 16 teams who could, and I think there was. I think Vandy could have done it. Obviously if they get on a run, I think Texas could have done it. Obviously Notre Dame, maybe Utah if they get hot, maybe even BYU if they could just figure out some mistakes. You had teams who could compete for a national title, and there's nobody in that playoff bracket other than those 2 group of 5 teams who could win it, who could just go on a run and win it all. When you get to 16 teams, you're not always going to have 16 teams who can win the national title. You go to a couple years ago and you go, well, yeah, there's 4 good teams, or there's 5 good teams who could win the national title, but other than that, and the rest of them probably won't. They're going to be underdogs. They're probably not going to win the national title. And so I think that's just going to what's going to become more difficult is picking out who's not so bad compared to who is good.
Yeah, and I think that's just my thing about expanding. I just think it's going to make it difficult. So I think that's just something we'll see, and we'll kind of see as it plays on after this year if there's more discussion about it.
Yeah, I think there
And I
will
kind of
be.
and you kind of brought it in there briefly, and I kind of want to talk to you about it as well. Another big, I've seen it everywhere. 2 um 2G5 schools making it in this year. A lot of people just think in general they shouldn't even be in there.
Sure.
Kind of want your thoughts on that, and kind of want to hear what you have to say.
I mean, man, at the same time, like I just said, it's fun to see them. Like James Madison had a great year. They're a great team. They're a good they're a good football team, and so is Tulane. A great coach team, good guys on their team. They can play some ball. The issue comes when you have a year like this, where you have 16 teams who can win a national title, and instead of putting someone like Notre Dame, who I probably would have thought, you could bet that they could win it this year, definitely, with how they were playing. You have a team like that who doesn't make it because you have 2 teams. And I know they're auto bids, obviously they got in because they won their conference. But you have 2 auto bids for teams that aren't going to compete for the national title. And as much as I love Tulane and John Summerall, I love Bob Chesney and JMU, they're just not going to, it's not going to happen. And so you have a team sitting on the outside of Notre Dame who could have one of those spots if you didn't have auto bids to group of 5s who could be competing for a national title right now and who easily could be one of those teams to win it. And I think that's where the issue comes in is I don't hate it. I really love seeing those teams get in. I think you should include them. Even if you go to 16, maybe leave 1 spot for it. But I think there should be a criteria for if for a group of 5 team to make it into the playoff, they have to do such and such things. Per se, like James Madison. They don't have a Power 4 win. They don't. They lost the only Power 4 game that they played all year to Louisville. Yes, they lost it only by 4 points, but that's the only Power 4 team they played, and they lost. I think there should be a criteria like how many Power 4 wins you have, or where you are ranked in certain metrics, or,
Yeah.
you know, stuff like that. I think there's got to be some degree to where you let them in. I think they should be. I think they should have the chance. Say, like, Cincinnati a few years ago, obviously they made the top 4. And if you're a team, if it's the top 12 now, well then, yeah, like, we're not just gonna throw them out. Obviously they're not playing a conference, but in a Power 4 conference, they do now. But back then they didn't play in a Power 4 conference. So, like, yeah, we should include them. They don't think they should just be kicked out because they were a good team. But I think there should be some precedent. Like, they would have met that standard to what they had to be to get in.
Yeah, and I kind of wanted to mention, and I think this is something kind of not really counter, but kind of something to mention. There's always supposed to be one of them in there, realistically.
True.
But the
True.
ACC had ACC
Yeah.
had a 7-5 team win the game.
True that, and I know people look at it
So
this year and go, "There's 2 of them in," but like you said, there's not
the ACC,
supposed to be. That's not the set of rules that there is. The
right?
ACC was just so bad that you had a team like Duke who won, and you can't put a 5-loss team in the playoff.
Well, right, and that was kind of my counter, and a lot of people were kind of blowing it up, saying this shouldn't happen. There shouldn't be 2, G5 teams in there. But I'm going to tell you straightforward, there's not supposed to be 2 of them in there. It's not meant for both of them to be there.
True.
But your Power 4 conference has a 7-5 team winning the conference title game.
Yeah, something
They're
that
not
can't
supposed
happen.
to be.
Yeah,
exactly. They're not. They're not supposed to be there.
no,
But they
they're
are.
not. They
So
are. Yeah.
I think without a doubt, I think one team. I'm going to agree. I think the top ranked conference champion should be in there, which most of the time should be one G5 school. But because a Power 4 conference couldn't perform, you got 2 of them in there, and I think a lot of people are kind of bashing it for those 2 being in there. But again, it's not supposed to happen. You can't let a 7-5 team can't win the can't win the ACC title game and expect to be put in. You can't put a 5-loss
Yeah.
team in. You just can't do that.
Yeah, and I think it's a fair point. Like, you can't. There's not supposed to be 2 teams in there this year. And like I said, well, you take last year for example. Boise State got in. Obviously, none of us expected them to get the bye, and they probably shouldn't have gotten the bye. But Boise State was a good enough team. They obviously didn't compete too well in the game that they played, but they were a good enough team. They could play against those top dogs. They had a guy in Ashton Jeanty that could run through pretty much anybody. You have those group of 5 teams every so once in a while that can really compete. They can really play with those guys and have the people. And especially now with NIL and transfer portal and everything, you could definitely get some of those teams. You could have a team in a few years that can compete with the top dogs. And so I think there should still be one guy that gets in. Well, and coming next year, like I just thought of, was you'll have the Pac-12 back. The Pac-12 will be back, and as it won't be looked at as a Power 4 conference, but there will be another conference in play for that group of 5.
Yeah,
For that
and
group
that's
of
a lot
5
of and there's a lot of Mountain West teams heading that way.
Mm-hmm.
So definitely some realignment there. Obviously you said you're adding the Pac-12 the Pac-12 back. And again, that was kind of the one thing I was thinking myself.
Yeah.
It's not meant for 2 teams for G5.
No, it's
But
not.
that's how the cookie crumbled.
That exactly. If the ACC champion isn't even in the playoffs this year, and you take it this way, how many times is that going to happen? Well, last year,
Not
obviously, with
often.
Clemson, it did, and the ACC has been a big letdown the last couple of years. But, like, it's not going to happen often that you have a Power 4 conference at that, and a Power 4 team that doesn't get in that wins their conference champion, because usually they are good enough. And if Virginia would have won their game, then we wouldn't even be having this discussion. There's not supposed to be two teams, and there more than likely won't be in the next few years.
Yeah, I mean, again, Virginia. I mean, but again, you talk about. I mean, Virginia's only favored by 3.5 in that game. I mean, they're number 16 in the country, only got 2 losses, and
Yeah.
playing a 75 Duke, only 3.5 point favorites, and they beat Duke by 17 earlier in the season.
Yeah.
I
They
mean,
say it's hard to beat a team twice, and Duke showed that.
yeah, and that's obviously and that was one thing I wanted to talk about and just discuss because I mean I think it was important to bring up because I think a lot of people didn't want that to happen, and like I said, it's not supposed to happen. It really isn't,
No.
and so that was just something I wanted to point out.
Yeah.
But
Fair enough, though. It is a fair discussion for sure. But
mm,
again, like I said, I don't think you'll see it happen in the next few years, especially with this whole Notre Dame's guaranteed to get in. So we'll see what happens with that. I do want to discuss before we end here. Um, I just want to get your prediction on the playoff. I want you to kind of tell me what your prediction is. Who you think is going to win the matchups, and who you think is going to be the national champion this year.
you're on the spot, man. I haven't even done any digging and looking yet.
Well, just get gut feeling. What do you think is going to happen?
I'll tell you this. I think head to that national championship game, I think we'll see a Texas Tech Red Raiders playing for it.
Oh,
Um, I mean, you've watched this team's done this year,
I have.
and
Yeah,
this defense, elite. I mean, an
so is.
elite defense.
Yeah,
This offense has performed, but this defense is just outstanding. I
true.
mean, they've played so well this year, and they've done incredible things. And so
Yeah,
I personally wouldn't be surprised if they're there. Um, they're gonna have a tough route to get there, though. Of course, they're gonna either be playing Indiana, Oklahoma, or Alabama at that
true
point.
that.
And kind of going to the first round matchups. Um, as much as I want James Madison to, be a Cinderella story and
Yeah.
beat Oregon, I think Oregon's gonna take that one and
Mhm.
play Texas Tech. Dante Moore and that Oregon team, and my Dan Lanning's gonna, I think, knock off James Madison. But I think one I should see is definitely Alabama, Oklahoma,
Mhm.
another rematch. Two teams who have both struggled offensively. Alabama cannot get the ground game going whatsoever. It doesn't exist.
True.
-3 rushing yards against Georgia in the SEC championship game. That's gonna have to get fixed fast, and I'm talking real fast.
Mhm.
Going against the Sooner defense, who I'm
Is
really surprised how well they're
yeah,
playing,
one of the best in the
and
nation.
their offense struggling as well. So I
Lackluster.
could see it's going to be interesting to see how this matchup goes. I'm expecting kind of a low scoring game. I think this defense are going to show out, and I think it'll be a tough dogfight. Um, the thing is, I think Oklahoma's going to take out Alabama
Yeah.
um, in this game,
Beat them twice.
and I really want to believe Alabama's going to do it and beat them. But from what I've watched, almost since the LSU game, obviously I was there watching it. I just this offense, this ground game, it kind of scares me.
Yeah.
Ty Simpson hasn't been playing well. The ground game can't get going. I
True.
just don't think. uh, To me, they haven't really given me a reason since then to kind of have a little belief. And of
Mhm.
course, I think they could. I mean, obviously, Kalen DeBoer, a great coach, and get this team turned around. But I'm gonna have to take Oklahoma in this game. Um, I just don't think Alabama offensively is going to be able to get it turned around.
True. True.
But I may bite those words, so we'll see.
All good.
Tulane Ole Miss, I think going to be an exciting game. They've always been played earlier this year.
They did.
A good matchup. Ole Miss blew them out by 35. I think this contest will be a little bit closer, but I think Ole Miss is going to take them out. Uh, Obviously, Trinidad Chambliss, this offense, Ewan Lacey,
Yeah.
And I think this kind of new and improved defense, just something I wanted to see from them. I think a little improvement on the defensive side's got them playing good football, so I think they're going to beat Tulane.
Yeah.
And this game down here, I don't know what to think of it. I mean, I
Tough,
I've
tough pick.
really I've honestly been pondering it since yesterday. Um, I've just been playing it in my head. A&M, you know, offensively, I think is going to perform. I think Miami offensively is going to perform. Um, Miami's defense has been playing well this year.
Hmm.
A&M's defensive line, tough and elite. Um, but at the end of the day, I'm going to take A&M and this SEC team to beat Miami. Uh,
Okay.
I think their defense is going to be a little bit too much for Carson Beck. But
Hmm.
at the end, I wouldn't be surprised too if Miami came out and beat A&M at Kyle Field. The thing is,
It's gonna be a
Kyle Field is
hard.
so
Yeah.
tough to play at.
What to say?
Kyle
Gonna
Field
be
is
a
a
hard thing to
hard place
do.
to play.
Hmm.
That's why I think home field's gonna be a big thing for A&M. I think they're gonna beat Miami, but again, wouldn't be surprised either way.
Yeah. I
Um,
I think I like those picks. I think I would do everything the same. Um, I do think I think I'm gonna take Alabama though to beat Oklahoma. I do think they will come back. It's hard to beat a team twice. I do think they'll get some things figured out. They've got 2 weeks to fix it. I think that'll help Ty Simpson. I think that'll help the running backs. Maybe get some guys healthy. They've been banged up the last few weeks, so I think they'll get some guys back and get the team rolling again. I think it'll be a close game, obviously, with Oklahoma's great defense and their not so great offense. Um, but I think Alabama can pull it off. Um, yeah, as much as you said you wanted James Madison to win, Autzon's a hard place to play for anybody, and even for a good Bob Chesney squad, it won't stand a chance. It's, kind of the same thing with Tulane. Obviously, they've already gone to Oxford this year, got blown out, never was given a chance. But at the same time, I think it'll be closer, especially with an Ole Miss team who doesn't. Well, they have a head coach, but they didn't. They don't have their head coach that they had then. Um, and some are all getting their guys ready, and they have 2 weeks to prepare for that game. So I think it'll be closer, but I think Ole Miss still wins by a couple touchdowns. And then, yeah, hard game at the end there, Miami, Texas A&M. Two teams that beat Notre Dame this year. We'll see which one of those is better. And Kyle Field, man, I think that's gonna. I think the 12th man is gonna play the biggest part in this. Is can they get Carson Beck just off his game? Can they get him to kind of mess up? And this
mhm.
Texas A&M defense loves to do that. Loves to get people kind of off center, off their game, off tempo, and I think they can do that. I think this game will be close, but it's can Carson Beck not make the mistakes that he has in the past? And if he
Mhm.
doesn't, then they could totally beat Texas A&M. But at the same time, Marcel Reed and his squad of guys, their offense runs amazing. Their defense runs amazing. If they can get Carson Beck to make some mistakes, they'll win that game pretty
Yeah.
easily.
Again, it's tough to play at Kyle Field, man. It's just so tough.
Oh, yeah.
I think it's a deciding factor for me.
Yeah, I think that's the big thing about hosting games in the playoffs. That's like Norman will make a big thing for Alabama as well. So, yeah, it'll be interesting to see. All right, so we basically had the same thing in the quarterfinals here, other than me having Alabama. Run through those a little quickly, and tell me what you think will make it out of that.
Obviously, Oregon, Texas Tech. Of my prediction, I'm going to take Texas Tech. I'm riding
Yeah.
high and believing in this Texas Tech squad. I mean, what they've done this year. Obviously, this Dan Lanning, Dante Moore, this
Hmm.
squad. I think it's going to be a good game. Oregon's defense doing what they do. But I just think this Texas Tech squad's just elite, and that
Yeah.
defensive line, that just a second, just everything about Texas Tech's defense and what they've done all year, or all around, has been good. So I'm
Yeah.
gonna take them to beat Oregon in a close
Okay.
one. Oklahoma, Indiana. Um, well, we kind of saw in the Big Ten championship game, and I think a lot of people were surprised to see it. Indiana's got a defense.
They so do.
I
They so
mean,
do.
They do, and I know a lot of people talked about. I think a lot of people I had heard just kind of saying, I don't think Indiana's got a defense. I don't think they're going to be able to compete.
Hmm.
Well, they shut that all out fast.
They did.
This defense is just solid, and all this offense led by Fernando Mendoza and what they've been able to do. I'm going to take Indiana to knock off Oklahoma.
Okay.
I think an interesting game though with two solid defenses playing, but I think Indiana's offense giving them the little bit of the upper hand here in that game.
Okay.
Georgia Ole Miss, another rematch earlier this year, and it's
Yeah.
hard to beat a team twice. But I'm going to take Kirby Smart and his squad. This team has just kind of gotten better throughout the season.
Fair
I
enough.
think they slowly just kept getting better and better.
Yeah.
But I wouldn't be surprised if Ole Miss kind of makes a run through these playoffs too.
Could.
I think they're kind of just that sneaky team. I mean, and I think their defense has been a lot improved. I think that's one thing I think I've been wanting to see them improve for the last few seasons. I think they've had the
Yeah.
offense to compete, but I think defensively is where they've lacked. But this year, that's gotten much better, and I think they'll definitely compete in this game. But I'm going to take Kirby Smart in Georgia.
Okay. Then last game here. What you got?
A&M Ohio State. Julian Sands had a good season. Um, Ohio State's defense elite. Um, one little concern last week: Julian Sands was sacked 5 times.
True.
The season high. It's not going to get easier, no
Mm-mm.
matter who they play next round though at the line of scrimmage.
No.
So I think that's going to be very interesting to see at the line of scrimmage. Can Julian Sands when he's got the clean pocket, what he's able to do? Going to be a tough game, but I'm going to take the Buckeyes to beat A&M.
Yeah.
I think defensively they're going to play outstanding, and I think Julian Sand and this offense is going to show up and play well.
Yeah, I totally agree with that. I do think Texas A&M will beat Oregon. I think Texas A&M's defense with J-Rod and that stash crew will definitely kind of get Dante Moore off center there and off tempo and be able to win that game. Alabama, Indiana for me, it'll be an interesting game. It'll be a fun game to watch. A very big program with a very not so big program, and they're on opposite sides of what they usually are. So it'll be really interesting. But I think Fernando Mendoza could be Heisman winner here come Saturday. I think they'll definitely pull out of that one there and be able to pull off a win. Um, just kind of overloading that Alabama team. Georgia Ole Miss, like you said, another rematch that we'll get in this playoff potentially. Man, it is hard to beat a team twice, and I think Ole Miss has a little bit of fire under them with Lane Kiffin leaving, especially those players. And they can pull it off. Last time being a high-scoring game, and Georgia coming out with a win barely. But I think Georgia's only gotten better. So I will agree with you there. I do think Kirby's smart in that team. Definitely national title contenders, one of the top dogs. They will beat Ole Miss. And then Ohio State, Texas A&M, same thing that you said. I think Ohio State's still the team to beat. They're obviously, reigning national champions. I think they're still the team to beat. They can still go and win the national championship easily. They can go on a run like they did last year, lose their last game, and then run through the playoffs. I wouldn't be surprised with this team. With Julian Sayin and that defense, it's great. So I do think they'll pull off the win against Texas A&M. Now, I know you said you have Texas Tech in the final, so imagining you're putting them beating Indiana. I will go against you there, though. I will say that Indiana will beat Texas Tech, even though Texas Tech, I can only imagine you would say that their defense is great enough to beat them, and as I would say too, I think they are good enough to beat them. But what Indiana showed on Saturday against and beating an Ohio State team, man, I think Indiana and Fernando Mendoza and that whole squad, Surratt and everybody, I think they definitely have a chance to beat Texas Tech.
Yeah, I mean, I don't disagree there. This Texas Tech defense obviously preached about it a lot,
Yeah,
but two
yeah,
good defenses going at it.
for
And,
sure.
and watching this offense, against BYU
Oh, yeah.
get better and better as the game go on, and of course Indiana's offense still,
Yeah, two great
Fernando Mendoza.
offenses and two great defenses.
I think it's if this goes the way it goes, I think it's going to be one of the most exciting games to watch. I'm very interested to see how it goes.
For sure, for
But
sure.
I'm going to take this. But I do have to take the Stash Squad, man. I,
Yeah, and then
I think
yeah, they're amazing as well. Probably the best linebacker, could be arguably the best linebacker in the nation, behind a couple of the other teams on the list here. So, and then Georgia Ohio State. For me, I honestly am seeing a rematch. I think a rematch will happen in the championship game. I think Ohio State beats Georgia. I think Georgia comes up short again. Um, Even though Kirby Smart and his team, man, they're going to give it all they got, and they could definitely win the national championship this year. I just still think that Ohio State, even with maybe not showing as much as people would love, they still got every piece that they need to win a national championship. So I think they will beat Georgia, and I think there'll be a rematch of Indiana and Ohio State in the national title game.
well, we've got different national championships playing out. I am going to take Georgia to beat Ohio State. Um, Kirby Smart led team. Again, just for me, it's the fact they've gotten better throughout the season.
True.
And offensively, Gunnar Stockton's gotten better. This defense has gotten
Mm-hmm.
better. And I think kind of at the beginning of the season,
Yeah.
the defense was a big talk about. Um, I think the big thing is, can Georgia get Julian Sand off his rhythm defensively?
True.
Um,
True.
we looked at what the Indiana defensive line was able to do, sacked 5 times. And I think going
Yeah.
forward, for Ohio State for this playoff, you know, can they get to Julian Sand fast? Can the pressure get to him?
Yeah.
Georgia's just gotten better for me. I just see them going back to the national championship. They've been playing better. Kirby Smart led team. I think I see them back there once again.
And fair enough. I think honestly, any of these teams can make it. Like I said, you have 10 teams who can easily make the national title if they just go on a run, and they could win it all. All these teams, I think, possibly could. Other than James Madison, Tulane. But so yeah, I totally see it. I can see it
Hey man,
going
you
either
never
way.
know.
I mean, technically, you're right. They could. There's always a chance. Um, but yeah, no,
hmm
I can totally agree with you saying. I don't think any wrong choice. I don't think there's any choice that's a wrong this year. Because there's just that many good teams. But for me,
hmm
it's Indiana, Ohio State, and honestly, I think Kurt Signetti gets it done, man. I think they
I'm
beat
all
Ohio State twice, even though it would be really, really difficult, and I think it might be a little more high scoring than it was on Saturday. I don't think they would get out with a 13-10 win, and I don't think Fielding's going to miss another a kick. At that point, I think Ohio State's going for it, but I do think Kurt Signetti does it in his second year at Indiana and turns his program, flips it up on its head, and wins a national title.
interesting. I don't disagree. I think here the run for the Stash Squad's going to end. I think Kirby Smart and
Mm.
this Georgia team's going to beat Texas Tech in the national championship, and I'm going to have the Georgia Bulldogs taking home another national championship.
Hey,
Um,
fair. Fair though. I mean,
I just
again, like you said, that Georgia team has only gotten better throughout the year, and that's a crazy thing to say about how good the Georgia team was at the beginning of the season, only to get better.
Yeah, I think that's one of the big things for me. I look at in this is who's just gotten hot, you know, and that's the big thing I look at is who's gotten better, and a lot of these teams have. Texas Tech, Indiana, Georgia, Ohio State, they've gotten better
Yeah,
and just
yeah.
continue to get better. For me, it's just who's getting hot, and I just think Georgia's getting hot. I think
Hey,
they're going to go
fair
on this
enough.
run. I think they're going to go win the national title. But also, I wouldn't be surprised if it goes the other way with Indiana, Ohio State. I wouldn't be surprised if Alabama makes it there. Um,
True. True.
who knows? A&M, Miami may get there. Ole Miss may get there. I mean, there's just so many good teams.
For real. We could see a Alabama, Texas A&M. Or you could see an All SEC championship, or we could see Ole Miss, Oklahoma, for all we know, or Oregon. Ole Miss, Oregon, or Oregon, Texas A&M. It could go any way, man. And that's the fun part about college football. Is that anything can happen and it can all change, and We'll just have to see come December 19th and 20th in the first playoff games there, and we'll see who wins those, and then going on to the rest of the games down the stretch. Um, but yeah, I think that's it for tonight. I think we covered pretty much all we wanted to, and we'll have another episode come out Thursday, and we'll discuss even more. Won't be so much college football based, because there's a lot of other things we got to discuss that are going on in the sports world.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, I think that's it for tonight. Hopefully y'all enjoyed, and we'll see y'all Thursday.
We will. Very excited.